Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV coming to you with breaking Trump transition news. Maybe Trump's most controversial nomination yet. I know there have been several of those we've said that about, but this really might be the most controversial nomination. Trump has picked RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. RFK Jr. is known for having a number of views about medical topics that go against scientific orthodoxy. So we want to bring you the latest updates on this breaking news. And hey, we talked about this on the stream yesterday. We talked about this exact possibility, saying that given that, we might have done a poll on this yesterday, saying that given his other picks, it seemed like this was a possibility. Well, it has now happened. So we're going to take your comments on the air. We're going to talk about it. Also, maybe there'll be some other Trump picks revealed today. There's a bunch of other positions he has not made picks for yet. So will he nominate Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, for something? That's what some of our viewers were asking yesterday. So maybe we'll get other news on this today. So we're here to bring you the latest updates on this and other Trump transition news. If there are confirmation hearings in January, they were already expected to be possibly contentious. They might have gotten more contentious possibly today. Okay, so hey, let me say a quick thanks to our moderators. We have Ruth Krafasi and Beth Mythical and Roberts Mayqueen over there in the YouTube chat. We have Linda Belk and Larry on X. We have on Twitch moderating, hang on a moment. A Moment of Lovely, LB Prairiedon and Idaho Star, thank you. And we have, give me a moment here. We have Kay Larry Body moderating on Facebook. Thank you, Kay. Margaret Riley is there too. Ronald Egnor, thank you so much. Christy Claff thinks he'll never be confirmed. I don't know. I mean, if there are confirmation hearings, it's unclear whether Republicans in the Senate will go against any of Trump's nominees. We'll have to just see. I don't know what's going to happen. By the way, I want to say thanks also to Bebop and Rocksteady for your support, who says, started my Flintstones vitamins this morning, feeling healthier already. Thanks to Shaft for your support. Thank you, K-Nut, for our support. K-Nut said it's a great day for polio. Justin thinks it's a great pick. Thank you, Justin, for your support. Thank you, Rick D, for the gift memberships. Thank you also, Katsy. Katsy thinks she liked the Gates pick even less than RFK Jr. As I would say, as has been the case for a number of Trump's picks, we have some in our chat who like them and some who do not like them. Casey, thanks for your support. Casey, I appreciate that, Casey. Thank you. Okay, let me show you the announcement from former President Trump. Hold on a second. Let me pull it up here. I'm pulling up the announcement here for you to see. Here we go. There we go. Let me just do this real quick. Here is the announcement. Trump says, I am thrilled to announce Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services, HHS. For too long, Trump says, Americans have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health. Trump says the safety and health of all Americans is the most important role of any administration, and HHS will play a big role in helping ensure that everybody will be protected from harmful chemicals, pollutants, pesticides, pharmaceutical products, and food additives that have contributed to the overwhelming health crisis in this country. He says Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency to end the chronic disease epidemic and to make America great and healthy again. There is the announcement from Donald Trump. By the way, thanks so much. Carrie Poteet gave 20 people memberships. Wow, that's really nice of you, Carrie. Make sure you thank somebody if they give you a membership or if they give you a subscription. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks also, Mitchell Pilot. Mitchell Pilot says America is finally trying something new. Thanks also to Spirit of the Shadows for subscribing on Twitch and Who Shot JR for your support, and also Jeffrey M. Jeffrey M. Thank you, Ruben Urban and Jeffrey M. for your support. Ruben says, loved all the pics. Jeffrey M. says, these cabinet picks are going to send America into a third world country. Well, we certainly have some differences of opinion. Hey, look, here is the headline from AP. Trump chooses anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as health secretary. He is known as a vaccine skeptic. President Trump says he will nominate anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, putting him in charge of a massive agency that oversees everything from drug, vaccine, and food safety to medical research and the social safety net programs Medicare and Medicaid. Kennedy, a former Democrat who ran as an independent in this year's presidential race, abandoned his bid after striking a deal to give Trump his endorsement with a promise to have a role in health policy in the administration. He and Trump, says AP, have since become good friends, with Kennedy frequently receiving loud applause at Trump's rallies. A longtime vaccine skeptic, Kennedy is an attorney who built a loyal following over several decades of people who admire his lawsuits against major pesticide and pharmaceutical companies. He has pushed for tighter regulations around the ingredients in foods. Within the with the Trump campaign, he worked to shore up support among young mothers, in particular with his message of making food healthier in the U.S., promising to model regulations imposed in Europe. It remains unclear how this policy focus will square with Trump's history of deregulation of big industries, including food. Trump pushed for fewer inspections of the meat industry, for example. Kennedy's stance on vaccines also made him a controversial figure among Democrats and some Republicans, raising questions about his ability to get confirmed even in a GOP-controlled Senate. Kennedy has espoused misinformation about the safety of vaccines, including pushing a totally discredited theory that childhood vaccines cause autism. He has also said he would recommend removing fluoride from drinking water. The addition of fluoride has been cited as leading to improved dental health. I'll just finish reading this article. HHS has more than 80,000 employees across the country. It includes the FDA, the CDC, Medicare and Medicaid programs, and the National Institutes of Health. Kennedy's anti-vaccine nonprofit group, Children's Health Defense, currently has a lawsuit pending against a number of news organizations, among them the Associated Press, accusing them of violating antitrust laws by taking action to identify misinformation, including about COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines. Okay. So, big news. Big news. This is the first pick Trump has announced today. Will there be any more picks today? We will certainly let you know. Hey, by the way, thanks to Carrie Poteet. Carrie says, I hope RFK Jr. is successful in his vision. Thank you, Kenneth Colton, for your support. Kenneth says, I am not sure if the guy who had brain worms and collects roadkill should be involved in anything health-related. This is bizarre. That's what Kenneth Colton, our viewer, says. I think he's referring to things RFK Jr. has said. For example, New York Times, May 9th, 2024, RFK Jr. says doctors found a dead worm in his brain. We can maybe look at that later, but I'm just telling you the headline that's from. Victoria Estrida thinks RFK is not anti-vax. Manuel Corchero says Trump has a lot up his sleeve. Per Holstrand says, I hope RFK Jr. is successful too, but his record shows reason for concern. JDK thinks there's lots of misinfo in this AP article. Nicolette Parker says, a conspiracy theorist leading women's health? Timodo 1 says, all of this is great news, drain that swamp. Mahogany Raven says, expect there to be more sick people. Mystical Goat says, RFK is awesome. Wow. Controversial choice. Let me just make sure I don't have any more updates for you. I don't know. There could be stuff. Hang on. I am just checking for updates. We have breaking news coming out today. By the way, the New York Times is reporting. The New York Times just reported that Elon Musk met with Iran's UN ambassador to discuss diffusing Iranian-U.S. tensions during the next Trump term, two Iranian officials said. So, again, the New York Times is reporting that Elon Musk, a top advisor to President-elect Trump, met with Iran's UN ambassador to discuss diffusing Iranian-U.S. tensions during the next Trump term. That is being reported right now from the New York Times. Oh, by the way, I want to mention this. There's an interesting thing here I saw earlier today. So Caitlin Collins, who is a CNN anchor, she posted an interview she did with the Trump transition co-chair, Howard Lutnick. And I believe this interview was at the end of October, so a couple weeks ago. And Howard Lutnick, who again was the Trump transition co-chair, told Caitlin Collins on CNN, RFK Jr. is not getting a job at HHS. And Caitlin Collins said to him he would not be in charge of HHS. And Howard Lutnick said, no, of course not. I'll post the link so you can see it. She literally posted the interview she did with him. But that was a couple weeks ago. Trump's co-chair, the co-chair of the Trump transition, told Caitlin Collins on TV that RFK Jr., of course not, he would not be in charge of HHS. I'll post the link for you there. So that was interesting. But it's up to Trump. It's not up to anybody else. Hey, I'm going to ask a poll question. Will the Senate confirm, assuming there's a confirmation hearing, because Trump wants the Senate to let him do recess appointments, which is a process by which the Senate would basically give up their power to confirm these nominations. and they wouldn't have to be confirmed. But if the Senate doesn't go along with that, and if the Senate says we're going to have confirmation hearings like we normally do, the Republican-controlled Senate, by the way, will the Senate confirm RFK Jr. as the head of Health and Human Services Department? Let's ask you guys what you think. Will the Senate confirm RFK Jr.? I am asking you right now in a poll, and we're going to see what you guys have to say about this. What do you guys think? Will they confirm him? Assuming there is a confirmation hearing. I'm going to show you in a second here what you guys have to say. Let's see. Overall, as we look at the picture from Reuters and headline from Reuters, on YouTube, 75% of you say yes. That's on YouTube. 75% say yes, they will confirm him. Oops, I got to make that a little bigger. How about on Twitch? What do people on Twitch have to say about this? Let's see what they say on Twitch about this, our viewers. 73% say yes. So most of our viewers think the Senate will confirm RFK Jr. Val says, why wouldn't they? He seems like the perfect pick. Sweetums says they will because most of the Senate is Republican. The majority is going to be Republican. Corey thinks senators will do whatever Trump wants or get primaried by endless Elon Musk funds. Now, some Republican senators aren't up for re-election for a number of years. Kelly McAlien, our viewer, thinks the Senate probably won't want to confirm him, but I think she says Trump will use whatever tricks he can to get his picks. All right, so we have most of you, the majority of you think that the Senate will confirm him. 77% on YouTube and 71% on Twitch think he will get confirmed by the Senate. Thank you for voting in our poll. By the way, quick thanks to Kenneth Colton, our member, and Michael Uphoff, our member. Michael Uphoff, our new member. Thank you, Michael. Monica J. Kelly, our new member. Mufasa, thank you. Mufasa says wants RFK to remove the chemical dyes in food. Reuters says, as you can see here, President-elect Trump announced on Thursday he has selected Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an environmental activist who has spread misinformation on vaccines, to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, the U.S.'s top health agency. It's a huge department. Department of Health and Human Services oversees the Food and Drug Administration, the CDC, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the National Institutes of Health, and the massive Medicare and Medicaid services programs, which provide health coverage for the poor, those aged 65 and older, and the disabled. Medicaid and Medicare's tens of millions of enrollees means HHS had a budget of over $3 trillion last year, representing 22.8% of the U.S. federal budget. Let's read you a little background here about RFK Jr. This is from Reuters. Kennedy, the son and nephew of two titans of Democratic politics, has been a part of Trump's transition team and has been reviewing candidate resumes for the top jobs at U.S. health agencies. On posts on social media platforms and interviews in recent weeks, RFK Jr. has indicated his priorities include addressing what he calls the chronic disease epidemic of conditions including obesity, diabetes, and autism, and reducing chemicals in food. Despite high levels of spending on healthcare and pharmaceuticals, Americans are unhealthier than their peers in wealthy countries around the world, according to a report from the Commonwealth Fund in 2023. Kennedy also suggested he would gut the 18,000 employee Food and Drug Administration, which ensures the safety of food, drugs, and medical devices, and replace hundreds of employees at the National Institutes of Health. In late October, he wrote, FDA's war on public health is about to end. He said that includes the FDA's aggressive suppression of psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, sunshine, and other items. In early November, he said he would recommend fluoride be removed from public water supplies, falsely claiming on X that the chemical is associated with bone fractures and cancer. The American Dental Association says the decades-old intervention reduces tooth decay by more than 25% in adults and children. Kennedy criticized in September a New York Times opinion article about the weight loss drug Ozempic, saying, instead of fixing our food system and addressing the obesity crisis at its root, the author focuses on a drug that may palliate the symptom and gladden the wallets of distant big pharma execs. I'll just finish reading this background from this article from Reuters on Kennedy. Kennedy and vaccines. Kennedy has been criticized for making false medical claims, including that vaccines are linked to autism. He opposed state and federal restrictions imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic and was accused of spreading misinformation about COVID-19. He disputes the anti-vaccine tag, saying he wants more rigorous testing of vaccines instead. However, he chaired the Children's Health Defense, a nonprofit organization that focuses on anti-vaccine messaging. In an interview in March, when he was still running for president, Kennedy said Americans who want a vaccine for themselves or their children would continue to have access to them if he were to be elected. But he said he doubted the efficacy of measles vaccines. Measles is one of the most contagious human viruses and is almost entirely preventable through vaccination. It requires 95% vaccine coverage to prevent outbreaks among populations. However, U.S. coverage rates have fallen below that level among young children, the CDC said this month. Let me just show you the end of this article here. Take some more comments from me. The end of the article says, Kennedy, who first sought the Democratic nomination before becoming an independent, had a rocky presidential run marked by attention-grabbing media headlines. During his campaign, he acknowledged in a video posted online that he dumped a dead bear in New York City's Central Park a decade ago and staged it to look like a bike had hit it. He proclaimed he had so many skeletons in my closet after a former family babysitter accused him of sexual assault. He denied that a large animal in a picture of him posing with a barbecued carcass belonged to a dog. Kennedy's campaign also confirmed a report that he had a parasite in his brain more than a decade ago, but says he has since fully recovered. Okay, that's an article from Reuters about RFK Jr., Trump's nomination to lead Health and Human Services. Our viewer Mark Foley believes media is owned by Big Pharma and they have the attack dogs out on this guy big time. Sentient Cannabis says, what parody movie did I land in? What is going on? I'll say 2B McCoy says, wonderful cabinet pick. Robert Brown says, these nominations are fire. Jane Jones says, measles vaccines need to stay. MMR is very necessary. Dino Nuggy says, RFK Jr. wants the polio wards again. We certainly have some disagreement about some of Trump's picks. Steffi J says, the fact he is non-medical helps. It means he has not been brainwashed. Breath Air says, it's going to be a rough year. Ladybug Baldiga says, trying to smear him. He's not a stupid man. Mama Cat says, RFK Jr. is a joke. This is just garbage. Well, we have some disagreement in our chat. Hey, thanks to John Cassidy for your support. Thank you, John Cassidy. John says, why on toothpaste tubes there are warnings to contact poison control if you ingest fluoride? I haven't looked at a toothpaste tube recently. Maybe there's something like, I mean, does a toothpaste tube really say if you ingest? Maybe it says something about like if you start swallowing the toothpaste or something. I would have to look at a toothpaste tube, but my assumption is that something like that would be meant for people who like swallow a bunch of toothpaste or something. I don't know. I would have to look into it. I am not claiming to be a medical expert. I never have. Okay, let me get you some updates here. Will there be any other picks today, by the way? That we do not know. We'll have to see. Trump has made multiple picks on a bunch of days. You can give me a shout at Lookner on X. Stanton Reddington, our reviewer, thinks only Rubio will be confirmed. That would be a big surprise if only one nominee was confirmed. I think it might. I mean, I think it'll be a surprise if it's certainly possible they'll all be confirmed. We'll have to see. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the Senate. Norman Zolkos wrote to me mentioning Javier Becerra. Norman says Javier, the current HHS secretary, Norman says, does not have a medical background. I don't know the details on Javier Becerra, but I can show you this. Wikipedia says Javier Becerra is a lawyer and politician serving as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He previously served as the Attorney General of California. He was also a member of the U.S. House of Representatives for 24 years. From the Wikipedia profile, it doesn't say that he's a medical doctor or a scientist. I don't know his background, Javier Becerra, in any kind of health stuff. Javier Becerra was confirmed by the Senate by 50 to 49 in 2021. It was the narrowest vote for any of Biden's cabinet positions. Thank you, Norman, for writing in. Thank you also, CC Truck 17 for your support, for being a member. Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for being a member. Joe believes the food in the U.S. is terrible and there are many cancer-causing ingredients. Big Pharma too. This is good to at least open the convo. That's what Joe says. Jessica SL says, RFK Jr. has fought for clean water in the environment. He's won against Monsanto. He's not anti-vax. He's for choice. That's what Jessica SL says. Thank you, Joe, as well, for your support. Did he post yet today? After the nomination announcement? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has he posted something? He reposted Trump's announcement, but he has not himself posted. I'll let you know if he does. So will there be confirmation hearings? And as there usually are, and what will the Senate do? I have no idea. Just some of the picks that Trump has not announced yet. Treasury Department, Department of Interior, Department of Agriculture, none of these have been announced. Department of Commerce, Department of Labor, Housing and Urban Development, Transportation, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Education, Head of the VA. All of those have not been announced yet. So who knows what other ones will be announced. Hey, thanks to McNugget for your support. McNugget says the reason toothpaste has warnings for fluoride ingestion is because it's a higher concentration compared to what we put in the water, which simply helps combat tooth decay. That's what our viewer McNugget says. Thank you also to Nick Van Sickle for your support. Wow. What is going to happen? Jim Sciutto, who is with CNN, says he believes that these appointments would bring great changes given their policy positions. Sciutto says controversial doesn't match the very real changes that these appointments would bring about at home and abroad. Of course, Americans can support or oppose such changes, but they would be major and lasting ones, and ones inconsistent with what used to be largely bipartisan views and approaches. HomeAware says, does Trump have power now or a say, or does he have to wait until January? Because, he's not president yet. HomeAware says, in UK, once you are voted in, the day after you are in control. Yeah, it's not like that in the U.S. In the U.S., there is like 2.5 months between the presidential election and the inauguration. So it's not like the U.S., the U.K., where there's a quick transition. I believe it is the next day, isn't it? Very quick transition in the UK compared to the US after an election where a different leader is elected. Maybe RFK Jr. will make some speech or something. May do a public appearance. Mako says people voted for change. So Trump is giving them what they want. The Senate can't go against the will of the people. Dustin thinks America is already starting to feel like America again. Vivi says, I'm pro-vaccines, but the food thing sounds good. Quinn Johnson says, Trump's picks will be interesting to see what happens. Twitcher says, R.I.P. America. Yeah, Trump, as one of our viewers pointed out, Trump, this is not, I considered a major announcement, but Trump said that Jay Clayton, the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission during his first term, is hereby nominated to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is an important position. I'll wait and see. I don't know much about Jay Clayton, so I'll wait and see if there's any kind of expert analysis of this that I can pass along to you. Kyle Cheney says, that Trump nominating Jay Clayton to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York is an effort to complete an appointment that collapsed into controversy in 2020. Kyle Cheney covers legal stuff for Politico. All right, if you're just joining us, Trump has chosen RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, maybe his most controversial pick yet. Here again is Trump's announcement. I am thrilled to announce Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services. For too long, says Trump, Americans have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health. The safety and health of all Americans is the most important role of any administration, and HHS will play a big role in helping ensure that everybody will be protected from harmful chemicals, pollutants, pesticides, pharmaceutical products, and food additives that have contributed to the overwhelming health crisis in this country, says Trump. Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency and end the chronic disease epidemic and to make America great and healthy again. Steve says, sounds amazing to me. Roberson says, RFK Jr. doesn't base his opinions on science. This is a horrible pick. Bunker Bluster says, outstanding. Vogue Oms says measles and polio up bigly. Melba says some controversial picks so far. Hey, thanks to Joe. Joe believes the people trying to stop the conversations about dangerous ingredients Big Pharma making people sick are ignorant and willfully blind. Ask questions. Thanks Zero Fox, our member. Maybe I can get you some comments from some politicians on this. Hold on a second here. Chad Pergram, who is with Fox News. Chad Pergram with Fox News reported that a Republican representative in California, Republican Rep Duarte. Now, I don't know if he's like in a swing district or something. John Duarte, Republican of California. According to Chad Pergram, with Fox News. John Duarte said, "All my kids are vaccinated. I hope he's not going to move against one of the most life-saving technologies in the history of the world. The anti-vaccine mantra scares me a lot." Now, of course, he's not a senator, so the senators are the ones who would confirm. Donald Trump Jr., Trump's son, posted about RFK Jr. and said, "Promises made, promises kept." Hey guys, so the last several nominees, a number of Trump's recent nominees have been prominent, I would say, political figures / media personalities. People, famous people who've been on TV a lot. We have Kristi Noem, and also big supporters of Trump, obviously. Kristi Noem. We have Matt Gaetz. We have Pete Hegseth. We have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Who else do you think? Will we see any more prominent, as I call them, famous people, media figures? I mean, they have they do other things besides being the media, but people who you're used to seeing on TV. Will we be seeing anybody else like that be nominated? Yesterday, a lot of you said that you thought RFK Jr. would be nominated for something. I was saying on the broadcast yesterday, well, it certainly would fit the pattern. So some people are saying Tucker Carlson. Would he want to have a position in the administration, or would not want to bother? Joe Rogan. I don't know that Joe Rogan wants to bother. I mean, he's doing well at his gig, his current gig, for himself. Dan Bongino, one of our viewers, Big Pudding says Tucker makes too much money to take a position. Kash Patel. He's not as much of as a well-known person, though. I mean, not to say he couldn't get nominated for something. Some of our viewers think he's going to head the FBI if Trump gets rid of the current FBI director. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is certainly quite well known and a supporter of Trump. Some of you said that yesterday. Megyn Kelly. Sean Hannity. Dana White. Dana White, again, is doing, I think he probably is happy doing what he's doing. I don't know that he'd want to, I might be wrong, but I don't know that he'd want to stop doing what he was doing to have to go into work a lot at the White House. No, Elon is not right now a cabinet. Elon and Vivek were tapped by Trump to run this, unclear exactly what it's going to be, but it's like an advisory department to give advice on government efficiency. But that's not a cabinet level position. Kayleigh McEnany. Ben Carson. Ben Carson's another one. I believe the president can name the National Institutes of Health. So Ben Carson was talked about for Health and Human Services. He's another one you could see. Robert says Alex Jones for press secretary would get everyone excited. Oh, Tim Scott, one of our lucky minutes says Tim Scott has been everywhere for Trump. I don't know that Tim Scott wants to give up his Senate seat to be in the cabinet, though. But, I mean, I want to say the last 3 or 4 picks there's Byron Donalds is a prominent Trump supporter who might get nominated for something. LA Girl mentioned that one. But I mean, the last few picks have been these prominent personalities. So I wonder if we'll see any more coming up. CC Truck says Candace Owens. Mark Halperin, who does reporting on, I think Mark appears on Newsmax some. Mark is a reporter, though. Mark Halperin just posted and said, are Donald Trump's personnel picks, A, going to be confirmed, shake up the deep state, and yes, make America great again, or B, doom any chance he has for public support, working with Congress, and having a productive first 100 days? He said he's going to be talking about it on his YouTube channel tonight, Mark Halperin. Actually, it says join me on Two-Way TV app, but it also has a YouTube link. So I don't know. You can, if you want to find out about that, go to at Mark Halperin. You can look up his post on X. And again, an interesting story today, and this is not related to, it's a transition story. It's not an RFK Jr. story. The New York Times is reporting that Elon Musk, who has been acting as a close advisor to Trump, met with Iran's ambassador to the UN on Monday to discuss how to diffuse tensions between Iran and the US. The New York Times says the meeting between Elon Musk and the Iranian ambassador to the UN lasted more than an hour. Rob Zilla says, this is like a movie. Gizmo says, Mark H. is on YouTube. Where is... By the way, the Washington Post, which of course they're not particular fans of Trump, they had a short article about the Kennedy nomination, and they said they said Trump, announced he had chosen RFK Jr. to run the Department of Health and Human Services, the sprawling agency responsible for administering millions of Americans' health insurance, approving drugs and medical supplies, regulating food, and responding to infectious disease outbreaks. The Washington Post said public health experts have warned that Kennedy, a longtime anti-vaccine activist who endorsed Trump in August in exchange for a role in his future administration, could undermine vaccine oversight if he takes charge of the nation's health department. Kennedy has vowed to pursue his Make America Healthy Again agenda, which targets causes of chronic disease and childhood illness. He has also said he wants to replace career officials at several of the health department's agencies, including the Food and Drug Administration, because he believes the agencies have been too sympathetic to private industry. He also recently said the Trump administration would push to get fluoride out of drinking water. Republican advisors have cautioned that Kennedy could face a difficult path to winning Senate confirmation to lead HHS, given his past statements on drugs and vaccines and his many personal entanglements, a reality that Kennedy and his advisors have acknowledged. Trump has argued that the Senate should allow Trump to make recess appointments to his cabinet positions, meaning that nominees would not need to sit for confirmation hearings. Toby N mentioned something about Alina Habba. Our viewer Toby Hen. Toby, I'm sorry. Oh, she posted this morning. I didn't even see this. Alina Habba, one of Trump's lawyers, posted on X earlier today. While I am flattered by the support and speculation, the role of press secretary is not a role I am considering. Although I love screaming from a podium, I will be better served in other capacities. This administration is going to be epic. So proud of the Trump team, the latest appointments in 47. So Alina Habba says that she is not going to be the press secretary. I mean, that's what she says. She said that earlier today. I had missed that. I don't know if she was offered it, but there you go. By the way, thanks so much to Ori Dekel. Why is the pick of RFK so meaningful? Well, first of all, it's an incredibly important department. The department has about 22% of, I believe, the U.S. budget goes towards that department. And RFK Jr. is known for having a number of views about health-related topics that go against scientific orthodoxy. So those are two big reasons this is being seen as a very controversial pick. I'll give you a little more background in a second. Thank you so much, Ori Dekel. And Joe, and Andy Crabtree. Thank you, Andy Crabtree, for your support. And Sparky. Sparky thinks Iran called for the meeting with anyone who would listen, which is why Elon met with them. I don't know how that all went down. According to the New York Times, Elon Musk had a meeting on Monday with the Iranian ambassador of the UN to the UN. There's an interesting post from Jared Polis, the governor of... Here's a post from Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado. Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, who I believe is a Democrat. He said, I'm excited by the news that Trump will appoint Robert Kennedy Jr. to lead HHS. He helped us defeat vaccine mandates in Colorado in 2019 and will help make America healthy again by shaking up HHS and FDA. I hope he leans into personal choice on vaccines rather than bans, which I think are terrible, just like mandates. But what I'm most optimistic about is taking on big pharma and the corporate agriculture oligopoly to improve our health. Before you mock him or disagree, I want to share you some quotes that, if he follows through, show why I'm excited. He said RFK Jr. has talked about level the playing field for Americans intentionally on drug costs, cap drug prices so that companies can't charge Americans substantially more than Europeans pay. He says yes. Also, Jared Polis thinks the entire nutrition regime is dominated by big corporate agriculture rather than human health, and they do more harm than good. Anyway, so Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, Democratic governor, mind you, he posted a post in support of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. However, Jared Polis also posted on his account back in August. Back in August, Jared Polis posted a clip of RFK Jr. on Fox News. And Jared Polis posted his post from August, said, not sure how bringing back measles and bringing back polio makes anyone more healthy. Interesting. Andrew S. says, ugh, the vaccine debate again. AP in their article calls him anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Will Trump nominate any other people today? Waiting to see that. Hey, thanks HomeAwares for the gift memberships. That's so nice of you, HomeAwares. Thank you. Thank you, Joe South Oz, who says it's very interesting from an Australian's point of view. A lot more interesting than over here. Oh, thank you, Hal9001. For your support. Thanks, Hal. All right, so just in case you're just coming... In case you're just getting here, Trump has nominated RFK Jr. as his Department of Health and Human Services Secretary. Maybe his most controversial pick yet. We're taking some of your comments on the air. We're bringing you updates. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Brandon Reed, who thinks Trump has great picks so far. We'll see if he makes any other picks today. But you can reach me at Lookner on X. Marty Hayes says, I'm so tired of politics. Well, Marty, there's going to be a lot more politics news in the next 4 years. Let's thank our moderators. We got some differences of opinion in the chat. Surprise, surprise today. But we got our moderators there keeping it under control. Beth Mythical, Ruth Krafasi, Roberts May Queen, over there on YouTube, moderating Linda Belk and Larry. K. Larry Body over there on Facebook. Ronald Egnor. Margaret Riley. By the way, our viewer Gail Tibbetts thinks people freaking out and saying he's an anti-vaxxer are not well informed and are listening to fear-mongering. That's what Gail Tibbetts says. Thanks to our Twitch mods, too. Big Ball of Yarn, A Moment of Lovely, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Surly Devin, Tariag. Thanks also to Scouse. Scouse does not appear to be a fan of RFK Jr. Thanks, Scouse, for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks, Ori Dekel. Ori Dekel, I did a Middle East stream, I think, yesterday, or in the morning yesterday. Yeah, just so people know, I mean, you know, the Middle East stuff is still going on, but, you know, we cover a lot of different news on this channel, and if there's big developments in the Middle East, you know, we'll do another stream on it. But, you know, it's like, I think sometimes we cover something a lot and people just assume it's going to go on like forever, that our coverage will go on forever. But, you know, there's other things I cover too. And at a certain point, it's also the focus of this channel is big new breaking news. So it's the same way in which, you know, for a while when it started, we were covering the Ukraine invasion every day. We don't cover the Ukraine invasion every day by Russia anymore. There's still news going on. If there's some big new breaking news, which maybe suggests that the conflict is taking a different turn, we'll certainly cover it. So it's, you know, I appreciate that people found the coverage useful, but, you know, we're not going to continue every single day covering it for 10 hours a day or even necessarily doing a stream about it every day. It just depends on what the news is that comes out from there. So if there's some big new development in the Middle East, we will certainly cover it. Thank you very much, Ori Dekel. I appreciate it. Also, Jeffrey B., who says he's actually draining the swamp this time. So let me just show you, just as a little background here for people who just joined the stream. Here's an Associated Press article about it. Trump chooses anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy as health secretary. Trump says he will nominate RFK Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, putting him in charge of a massive agency that oversees everything from drug, vaccine, and food safety to medical research and the social safety net programs, Medicare and Medicaid. Kennedy was running as an independent this year. He's a former Democrat. He abandoned his bid after striking a deal to give Trump his endorsement with a promise to have a role in health policy in the administration. He frequently received loud applause at Trump's rallies. AP says a longtime vaccine skeptic, Kennedy is an attorney who built a loyal following over several decades of people who admire his lawsuits against major pesticide and pharmaceutical companies. He has pushed for tighter regulations around the ingredients in foods. With the Trump campaign, he worked to shore up support among young mothers in particular, with his message of making food healthier in the U.S., promising to model regulations imposed in Europe. In a nod to Trump's original campaign slogan, he named the effort Make America Healthy Again. It remains unclear how that effort will square with Trump's history of deregulation of big industries, including food. Often you hear about Trump talking about wanting less regulation. So that's an interesting question. Trump pushed for fewer inspections of the meat industry, for example. Kennedy's stance on vaccines has made him a controversial figure among Democrats and some Republicans, raising questions about his ability to get confirmed, even in a GOP-controlled Senate. Kennedy has espoused misinformation around the safety of vaccines, including pushing a totally discredited theory that childhood vaccines cause autism. He has also said he would recommend removing fluoride from drinking water. The addition of the material has been cited as leading to improved public dental health. HHS has more than 80,000 employees around the country. It houses the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Medicare and Medicaid programs, and the National Institutes of Health. Justin Ramage, our viewer, says, look into what he actually says, not what somebody says he says. Quite a controversial pick. A lot of strong opinions for and against. EE says this should be very good and very, very interesting. Bad Tushari says, I wonder what Big Pharma has to say about all of this. Thank you, Stephen Neal, for your kind note. Jewish Pickle, our viewer, says, just because he is anti-vax doesn't mean he's going to end all vaccinations. You know, it's interesting. The Washington Post had an article that came out with today about RFK Jr. Before he even, this article came out today before he was not announced as the nominee. So it's not about him being a nominee. But it's interesting to look at this article now that he's been nominated. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just show you a couple things from this article. It's titled, RFK Jr. faces battles in quest to change America's food. It says RFK Jr. last month said on Fox News he would get processed food out of school lunches immediately if he is given a position in a second Trump administration. And it says the message shocked nutrition experts who remember how Trump's first administration fought against stricter school lunch standards. Kennedy's expected role in overseeing aspects of food policy in the new administration marks a significant shift in how Trump is planning to regulate the nation's food. Some of the ideas Kennedy is pushing, such as stripping ultra-processed food from school cafeterias and cracking down on food dye, have found support on the right and the left. But the notion of putting Kennedy, founder of a prominent anti-vaccine group, in a position to shape health policy has alarmed some federal officials and public health experts as well as the food industry. They worry about his stated desire to fire nutritionists at the Food and Drug Administration, his promotion of products and medicines the agency has previously warned against, such as raw milk and hydroxychloroquine, and his history of promoting debunked claims about vaccine safety. The president of the Center for Science in the Public Interest, a nonprofit that warns about the drawbacks of ultra-processed food and food dye, and a former top FDA official in the Obama administration, said of RFK Jr., here's a man who presents himself as an advocate for science, but embraces the least scientific aspects of the medical system. Kennedy faults Democrats for failing to prioritize healthy food. He told the Washington Post, the fact that Democratic sachems, I have to look up this word, sachems, boss or leader. The fact that Democratic leaders are debating whether their party should support public health as a political strategy rather than embracing it as a core value is testimony to how out of touch and morally bankrupt the Democratic Party has become, he said. Healthy food and clean, uncorrupted government agencies ought not to be partisan issues. On social media and talk shows, Kennedy repeatedly hammers the food industry, claiming it is mass poisoning the American public. Kennedy has said Trump wants to get chemicals out of food. Kennedy has also targeted McDonald's fries and falsely claimed that Fruit Loops in Canada have just 2 or 3 ingredients. He has argued against consuming seed oils, though nutritionists pushed back against scientifically questionable claims that such oils are toxic, and he wants to bar food stamps from being used to buy soda or processed food. This is interesting. If Kennedy does push for regulations such as limiting access to ultra-processed foods and banning food dyes, that would be a significant change for an industry accustomed to viewing the Republican Party as an ally, said this expert. This expert, Martin Hahn, said, if RFK implements his agenda, we would be looking at everything the Biden administration was doing and putting them on steroids, he says, arguing that Kennedy's policies could lead to higher grocery prices. Interesting. Also, a little more from this article, just interesting background on RFK Jr. It's an article that came out today in the Washington Post before he had been nominated for HHS. Kennedy's proposals to clean house at the FDA's nutrition department aren't far off from what some nutrition advocates have been pushing for, said an associate professor of nutrition at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She pointed to frustrations with the Biden administration's inability to push through labeling requirements for food packages to alert consumers to unhealthy products, regulations that have been delayed again and again. She argues that food companies have too much to say in the FDA's work. Well, we'll see if RFK Jr. gets confirmed what he does. But it's an interesting... There's that interesting part in that article that says, let me just go back to it more in time because I think it's really interesting. If Kennedy pushes for regulations such as limiting access to ultra-processed foods and banning food dyes, that would be a significant change for an industry accustomed to viewing the Republican Party as an ally. Interesting. I think it's an interesting article. That article is not all anti-RFK Jr. There's some pro and anti in that article. It's an interesting article. Susie Irish says it's a topic that's always been on the table, so let's see what RFK does. Sami Valkonen says 2 different things. Higher food prices because of higher taxes and corruption, or more expensive food because it is better food. Hectate thinks whole food stock is probably going to go up. Our viewer, one of our viewers, Patricia Grace, says, if anybody comes for my Oreos, I'm throwing down. PZ Papa Zulu says, we are already paying double grocery prices. By the time President Trump's fix the economy, we will have normal grocery prices, so a little bump for healthy food is okay. DLR says, so poor families are not going to be allowed to purchase time-saving convenience foods? That's not going to go over well. Thank you to Joe for your support. Appreciate all your support, Joe. Thank you. Lauren Zimmerman writes in, our viewer, and says, why is it okay for schools to mandate my grandkids can't take peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch? Do schools do that? I have no idea. However, it's okay to send your non-vaccinated kids who spread measles, polio, and other vaccine-preventable diseases. Your choice can make my kids sick. That's what our viewer Lauren Zimmerman says. The New York Times, in their article about RFK Jr. being nominated by Trump, said that some of RFK Jr.'s views, such as his emphasis on nutrition and removing additives from foods, are mainstream, but they say RFK Jr. has also spread false information about vaccines, including a theory that they cause autism, a theory that has long been debunked. He also has publicly contradicted the CDC recommendation that communities fluoridate their water to guard against tooth decay. They say it's not clear whether the Senate will confirm RFK Jr. Haven't heard anything yet about any other nominations today by Trump. There's a number of positions that have not been, he has not filled yet. Oh, hold on. Another statement from Trump. A new announcement from Trump, guys. Trump says that Todd Blanche, his lawyer, will be Deputy Attorney General. I saw this. I heard about this last night being reported. So look, new announcement from Trump. I hope I'm pronouncing Todd Blanche right. Trump says that Todd Blanche, who's one of his lawyers, is going to be Deputy Attorney General. Carolyn Levitt he works for Trump. I am pleased to announce that Todd Blanche will serve as Deputy Attorney General in my administration. Todd is an excellent attorney. I believe this position is not, it does not have to be confirmed. Todd is an excellent attorney who will be a crucial leader in the Justice Department, fixing what has been a broken system of justice for far too long. Todd prosecuted gangs and other federal crimes as a chief in the Southern District of New York, United States Attorney's Office, clerked for 2 federal judges, and graduated with honors from law school while working full-time at SDNY. Todd is going to do a great job as we make America great again. He says Emil Bove will serve as Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General in my administration and as Acting Deputy Attorney General as Todd Blanche is in a process of being... Oh, Todd Blanche does need to be confirmed? I'm sorry, I thought Deputy Attorney General did not be confirmed. Really? I thought he did not. I might have been wrong about that. I'm sorry. I thought I had read an article last night that said a Deputy Attorney General did not to be confirmed, but I guess I'm wrong about that. Because Trump says that Todd Blanche does need to be confirmed. Let me see if I can find you some more about that. That was just announced. How big a shakeup is there going to be at the Justice Department? We don't know. There's Wikipedia, Todd Blanche. And there's a picture of Todd Blanche on Wikipedia by Bruce Schaff. Yes, CNN had said last night that Blanche would need to be confirmed by the Senate. CNN says Blanche has represented Trump for the last 18 months. Oh, thank you to S-Prez, Jenna Ferrari. I really appreciate your support, S-Prez. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to show you something else about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Hang on a moment here. I got some more background about RFK Jr. to show you. We're going to talk about the Matt Gaetz situation as well. By the way, this is an interesting aspect of what's going on. There's a lot of these, a number of these nominations have been quite controversial that Trump has made in recent days. And there's this question of will the Republican-controlled Senate confirm them? Oh, RFK Jr. posted a statement, said Jason. Hold on. I'll show you that first. RFK Jr. says, "Thank you, Donald Trump, for your leadership and courage. I'm committed to advancing your vision to make America healthy again. We have a generational opportunity to bring together the greatest minds in science, medicine, industry, and government to put an end to the chronic disease epidemic. I look forward to working with more than 80,000 employees at HHS to free the agencies from the smothering cloud of corporate capture so they can pursue their mission to make Americans once again the healthiest people on earth. Together, we will clean up corruption, stop the revolving door between industry and government, and return our health agencies to their rich tradition of gold standard evidence-based science. I will provide Americans with transparency and access to all the data so they can make informed choices for themselves and their families. My commitment to the American people is to be an honest public servant. Let's go. There is his statement, just out. Tony Gunmo, our viewer, says, like it or not, it's happening. When will the Senate confirm, says Diane Lane? Well, the new Senate will be in place in early January. I assume if they have confirmation hearings, they'll be starting to have them in January. Per Holstrand says it's not happening if the Senate says no. We're going to talk about the Senate in a second. Let's talk a little bit more about Kennedy, though. Hold on, I saw a couple background articles on him. What to know about RFK Jr., Trump's pick for health secretary. This is from AP. President-elect Trump's plan to appoint Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Health and Human Services Department will put a prominent vaccine skeptic at the helm of the nation's sprawling public health apparatus. A scion, a descendant of a famous Democratic dynasty, Kennedy made a name in his own right as an environmental attorney who successfully took on large corporations, including DuPont and Monsanto. But over the past 2 decades, he's increasingly devoted his energy to promoting claims about vaccines that contradict the overwhelming consensus of scientists. Trump would have Kennedy lead a massive cabinet agency that oversees everything from drug, vaccine, and food safety to medical research and the social safety net programs Medicare and Medicaid. Trump said before the election he would give Kennedy free rein over health policy. Here's a look at Kennedy and the agency he'll be tasked with leading. Let me just read you a little of this. Kennedy defies scientific consensus on vaccines and other issues, AP says. He took over the anti-vaccine group Children's Health Defense and built it into a juggernaut during the pandemic. His activism helped him build a loyal following that he's leveraged in his political pursuits. Kennedy insists he is not anti-vaccine and claims he never told the public to avoid vaccination. But he has repeatedly made his opposition to vaccines clear. He said on a podcast, there's no vaccine that is safe and effective, and has urged people to resist CDC guidelines on when kids should get vaccinated. While there are rare instances when people have severe reactions to vaccines, the billions of doses administered globally provide real-world evidence that they are safe. The World Health Organization says vaccines prevent as many as 5 million deaths each year. RFK Jr. says he wants to eliminate liability protections for drug companies. Even before Trump was elected, Kennedy said he would recommend water agencies stop adding fluoride to drinking water. Fluoride strengthens teeth and is viewed as one of the biggest public health successes of the past century. Kennedy Jr. made a variety of other claims not backed by science, such as questioning whether HIV causes AIDS and suggesting antidepressants lead to school shootings. Children's Health Defense currently has a lawsuit pending against a number of news organizations, among them the Associated Press, who wrote this article, accusing them of violating antitrust laws by taking action to identify misinformation including about COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines. He wants to overhaul HHS staff. Something to keep an eye on when Trump gets into office. We have, there's reporting that I showed you yesterday that Trump is planning to make big changes at the top in the Pentagon. Really quick, just to show you that headline again, that was a Reuters article. Where is it here? Right here. Trump's team drawing up list of Pentagon officers to fire. Talks about how this article, maybe we'll look at it again later, but it's reporting from Reuters that says Trump is considering firing a lot of higher ups at the Pentagon. There is thoughts that perhaps there could be big changes coming to the Justice Department when Trump takes over, especially if his supporter Matt Gaetz gets confirmed as Attorney General, that maybe there will be a lot of firings there. And then you can see now we have another department where there's talk of possibly big personnel changes, a lot of people being let go. He wants to overhaul the HHS staff. Kennedy has promised to take a serious look at those who work for HHS and its agencies, including the Food and Drug Administration, the National Institutes of Health, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. He is especially focused on putting an end to the revolving door of employees who have previous history working for pharmaceutical companies or leave government service to go work for that industry, his campaign communications manager said last month. Kennedy says he wants to fire 600 employees at the National Institute of Health, which oversees vaccine research, and replace them with 600 new employees. Many of the scientists and researchers who work at the NIH are not political appointees, which makes firing them abruptly more difficult. Kennedy made this promise. He said, we need to act fast and we want to have those people in place on January 20th. So on January 21st, 600 people are going to walk into offices at NIH and 600 people are going to leave, he said in remarks posted on YouTube. Kennedy says the public health establishment is too focused on infectious diseases and wants to redirect resources toward a panoply of problems he characterizes as the chronic disease epidemic, including obesity, diabetes, autism, and mental illnesses. He blames them on greedy corporations, including drug companies that worry healthy Americans would be bad for their bottom line, and food producers using harmful pesticides and additives. His father was Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, brother of President John F. Kennedy. Anyways, that's a little background on Robert F. Kennedy. Our viewer Teresa Sahill says, shake it up, the public sector should not be exempt from losing their jobs. So are we going to see multiple departments with mass firings when Trump takes power? Something to keep an eye on, guys. Keep an eye out for that. Vidwash thinks Kennedy is sick and many children will die. Per Holstrand says RFK Jr. is a contrarian. He's against the establishment, whatever that means. Parallel News Network says Big Pharma shouldn't be immune. Hudzilla says draining the swamp. Ellen Jones says, yay, get rid of some of the corruption at the top. Bobby Teese says overhaul everything. Ellen says all for healthier food. How's that going to work with deregulation, though? Banjo says Trump is the swamp. David Carson says polio vaccine saved my brother. Dee Dee Tudor says, Bobby is an outstanding individual. He will be great for Americans. Anyone denying that is invested in the poisons. Hockey Guy says, I'm not a fan of Kamala or the Dems, but this is really terrifying. I don't think we fully realize what we're doing here. Hold on a second here. New appointment. New statement from Trump on the head of the VA. Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia. A new Trump announcement, guys. Former Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia. We have a new statement from Trump. I will show it to you in a second. To head the to head the VA. Here, right here. Trump says, I am pleased to announce my intent to nominate former Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia as the U.S. Secretary for Veterans Affairs. Doug is a veteran himself who currently serves our nation as a chaplain in the U.S. Air Force Reserve Command and fought for our country in the Iraq War. We must take care of our brave men and women in uniform, and Doug will be a great advocate for our active duty service members, veterans, and military families to ensure they have the support they need. Thank you, Doug, for your willingness to serve our country in this very important role. Our viewer, James H., thinks Doug Collins is a good pick. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. Here is the Wikipedia page for Doug Collins. The pick to head the VA, the Veterans Administration. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs is a cabinet position. He is a political supporter of Trump. He served as a member of Congress from Georgia. Also, it says, since leaving politics, he has served as a legal counsel for Trump. He is a lawyer, too. Oh, and I think there's a Solicitor General pick as well. Kyle Griffin of MSNBC says Trump just named John Sauer, who helped Trump win near total presidential immunity from the Supreme Court, as his pick for Solicitor General. I haven't seen that myself, but that's what Kyle Griffin is saying. Yes, here is the statement on John Sauer from Trump. I am pleased to announce that Dean John Sauer, will serve as Solicitor General in the U.S. in my administration. Hold on a second here. I believe that's like the person who represents the White House in court? Wikipedia says it's the fourth highest ranking official in the Department of Justice. It represents the federal government in cases before the Supreme Court. The Solicitor General's office argues on behalf of the federal government in almost every Supreme Court case in which the U.S. is a party, and represents in most cases in which the government has filed a brief as amicus curiae. Yes, the Office of the Solicitor General says the task of the Office of Solicitor General is to supervise and conduct government litigation in the U.S. Supreme Court. The United States is involved in approximately 2/3 of all the cases in the U.S. Supreme Court that the U.S. Supreme Court decides on the merits of each year. The Solicitor General determines the positions the government will take before the court. That's a big thing it does. Keith M. says, still nothing for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I bet she is sour. There's a lot of positions that have not been announced yet. So we've seen some legal appointments today. We've seen, after RFK Jr., Trump announced a nominee for Solicitor General, for a Deputy Attorney General, and for VA, Veterans Affairs Secretary. So Trump has been coming out with like this stream in the last couple hours of announcements. Will there be any other announcements with involving people well known to the general public? We'll have to see. Cody O thinks we'll have the best 4 years. Chad Pergram reports from Fox News that the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, Republican, the new Senate Majority Leader, was asked on Fox News about the possibility of recess appointments. A recess appointment would have to be agreed to by the Senate, but normally the Senate would confirm the president's nominees. Trump wants them to allow him to do recess appointments, which would not have to be confirmed by the Senate. And they want him to allow, Trump wants the Senate basically to allow him to just say, we're not going to have confirmation hearings on your cabinet member nominations. So John Thune was asked about this today on Fox News, according to Chad Pergram, and John Thune said, I hate to say yes or no because that's an open question. We're not taking any options off the table. So it's unclear whether the Senate might allow Trump to make some recess appointments, which would not have to go through the normal confirmation process. Teresa Moulton said Obama did it. Well, a number of presidents have used recess appointments, but it's not normal. It's not the usual to use recess appointments to get your cabinet picks confirmed. Hey, thank you so much to Chris Fraser, our new member, Chris Fraser. Brandy says, has Trump announced a new head of FEMA? Well, FEMA is in the Department of Homeland Security. So I don't know if that gets announced, or I mean he announced a nomination for the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. But FEMA is in the Department of Homeland Security. So I don't know, would that be up to Kristi Noem if she is confirmed? I don't recall Trump saying anything about who might run FEMA under his administration. Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate it. Thanks for the question, too. Thanks also to It's the DeFi Guy, who thinks Trump and his team have been working behind the scenes for the past 4 years preparing for the election. Will he actually carry everything out? Will he carry everything out? What will he carry out? It's a big question. We'll find out in a couple months. It's still over 2 months until he takes office. It's still over 2 months until he takes office. Just to remind you of something that was reported yesterday. Trump's team drawing up list of Pentagon officers to fire, sources say. This was from Reuters. This is from yesterday. Just as an example of something that could happen. Reuters says members of Trump's transition team are drawing up a list of military officers to be fired, potentially to include the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the head of all the military branches. In what would be an unprecedented shakeup at the Pentagon. The planning for the firings is in an early stage. One of the sources questioned the feasibility of a mass firing at the Pentagon. One source said the Trump administration would focus on military officers seen as connected to Mark Milley, Trump's former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In a recent book, Milley called Trump fascist to the core, and Trump's allies have targeted him for perceived disloyalty to the former president. Every single person that was elevated and appointed by Milley will be gone, the second source said. The disclosure of plans to fire senior leaders of the U.S. Armed Forces comes a day after Trump, this was yesterday, picked as his defense secretary Pete Hegseth, a Fox News commentator and veteran who has signaled a willingness to clean house at the Pentagon. Anyway, so will there be a lot of firings at the Pentagon? Kay Russ says all presidents put in their people. It's how they get their agendas done. Yes, but we're talking about a level of personnel change and firing people that would be greater than the usual, possibly. Darth Pronator thinks Ben Carson will be chosen to lead the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Oh, I wanted to mention this. Hold on. We're talking about the Senate. Will the Senate confirm all these nominees? So this article was written, I believe, even before RFK Jr. was nominated. Trump issues early challenge to GOP Senate with defiant nominations. This is from AP. Our viewer, Jason Carlton, thinks Trump is having trouble with a few of the older Republicans on his picks in support. Just as an example, Just hours after Republican John Thune was elected as the incoming Senate Majority Leader on Wednesday, President-elect Trump presented him with one of his first tests, an announcement he intends to nominate controversial Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. The Florida Republican is one of the more universally disliked members of Congress, including among GOP lawmakers. Also, he has been under a House ethics investigation probing whether he engaged in sexual misconduct and illicit drug use, accepted improper gifts, and sought to obstruct government investigations of his conduct. Gaetz denies the allegations. This 2 months before Trump takes office, he is already challenging congressional Republicans to defy him as he nominates potentially controversial figures to his cabinet, including Matt Gaetz, former Democratic House Representative Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, and conservative media personality Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, and add to this today, RFK Jr. for Health and Human Services Secretary. On Sunday, Trump said on X that he wants the new Senate leader to allow him to make appointments when the chamber is on recess, bypassing confirmation votes altogether. What's unclear is how much political capital Trump will have to expend to get his picks through the Senate, or whether it will even be necessary. Republicans will have a 53-seat majority in the Senate next year, giving him room to lose a few votes. Many Republican senators who will be tasked to confirm, who will need to confirm Gaetz, were reluctant to publicly criticize the pick. So this is going to be very interesting to see what the Senate does with these nominations. Jason Carlton thinks there are a lot of yes men being nominated. Let's hope they know their job. Excuse me. Although, is Jason talking about the nominees or the Senate? I'm not positive, Jason. You can write in the chat if it's different. Hold on a second here. Will we get any other big appointments today from Trump? I do not know. We'll have to just see what happens. We will have to see what happens. We're on the air waiting to see. Chemo thinks it's going to be complete chaos. Our viewer Stallios says, Secretary Hogan, let's go. JM says, Gaetz is smart and funny. Hey, thanks, Connor Garrity. That's so kind of you. Connor says, no one is telling us what's in the COVID vaccine. RFK will tell us. Thank you, Connor. Now, to be clear, I do believe you can find ingredients for the COVID vaccines. Here, for example, is from the Connecticut Department of Health, what ingredients are in the COVID-19 vaccine. And it gives a list of the ingredients for Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna. Now, this is from, I don't know which exact, I mean, there have been different versions of these vaccines, but that's just an example of one place where you could find out, if you're interested, what's in them. Thank you, Connor. I really appreciate your support. Connor Garrity, thank you so much. Michael Lauzone. Michelle Lauzone, our viewer, says, are you worried about the future administration being run by clowns who don't know anything about the job they are appointed to? We have some very different views about Trump's nominees in our chat today. Some strongly support, some are strongly against. Thank you, Alex Price, who says, would like to bring up the Sackler family and how many people they've killed with the medicines they've pushed. This pick is important. Accountability now. To be clear, that's Alex Price's view. I'm reading you Alex Price's view, one of our viewers. That's what Alex thinks. Thank you, Alex, for your support. Megster says, it can't get any worse than what's in office now. Resist and Exist says, I'm very concerned with the future of our country. It's a little interesting article about possible something else being discussed during the transition. Trump transition team aims to kill Biden electric vehicle tax credit, reports Reuters. Now you might think, wait, isn't Elon Musk, who owns Tesla, which is an electrical car company, wouldn't this hurt Elon Musk? But there's some thinking that it could actually help Tesla because it could make it harder for the competition, the less established competition, to sell electric vehicles. Anyways, President-elect Donald Trump's transition team is planning to kill the $7,500 consumer tax credit for electric vehicle purchases as part of broader tax reform legislation, two sources with direct knowledge of the matter told Reuters. Ending the tax credit could have grave implications for an already stalling U.S. EV transition. And yet representatives of Tesla, by far the nation's biggest EV maker, have told a Trump transition committee they support ending the subsidy, said two sources. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, one of Trump's biggest backers and the world's richest person, said in July killing the subsidy might slightly hurt Tesla sales, but would be devastating to Tesla's U.S. EV competitors, which include legacy automakers such as General Motors. Repealing the subsidy, a signature measure of Democratic President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, is being discussed in meetings by an energy policy transition team led by billionaire oil man Harold Hamm, founder of Continental Resources, and Republican North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, two sources say. Trump campaigned on ending Biden's EV mandate without specifying targeted policies. The team views the consumer EV credit as an easy target, believing that eliminating it will get broad consensus in a Republican-controlled Congress. Trump could use the cost savings from killing the credit to help pay for the extension of trillions of dollars of tax cuts from his first term that are set to expire soon, the two sources said. Congressional Republicans plan to take up the broader tax bill as one of their first actions. Killing EV tax credits is strongly supported by Ham, the billionaire oil man, a longtime Trump supporter, along with the broader oil and gas industry. Trump promised while campaigning to boost U.S. oil production even as it hit record highs and to roll back Biden's clean energy initiatives, which also include subsidies for wind and solar power and the mass production of hydrogen. Why Tesla could benefit from getting rid of the $7,500 EV tax credit in the U.S. This is interesting. Reuters says Tesla has historically been the biggest beneficiary of consumer EV subsidies passed by Biden and previous administrations. And yet it may now stand to gain from killing the subsidy because that could hurt rising EV competitors more than it hurts Tesla. Musk himself pointed out this in a July earnings call, saying losing the subsidy under Trump would probably benefit Tesla in the long term. Interesting. One portfolio manager, a Tesla investor, said getting rid of the subsidy means that competitors can't catch up and won't be able to compete on a cost basis. Reuters also says that losing the changes like losing the EV tax credit could cripple U.S. automakers' early efforts to transition to electric vehicles. Interesting. Anyways, interesting article about something that might happen. But again, Reuters reporting Trump's transition team aims to kill the $7,500 subsidy on electric vehicles. By the way, thanks to Bad Doge. Bad Doge says Gates and RFK won't pass filibuster. There's no filibuster for these confirmations. It's a good point, good question raised by Bad Doge. You just need a majority for confirmation of these nominations. Now that might have changed. I don't know when that changed. Maybe one of the parties changed it a few years ago or something. But the filibuster is available for some things. For a lot of legislation, you need 60 votes in the Senate, but not for confirming these cabinet nominees. Hang on, I'll try to find this out, when that changed. In 2013, I believe is when it changed. Yes, in 2013, a majority of senators, and I believe that was I believe that was a Democratic-controlled Senate. In 2013, the Democratic-controlled Senate voted to change the filibuster rules such that all executive branch and judicial nominees, except the Supreme Court, could be confirmed with a majority vote instead of the 60-person vote. And then I think in 2017, the Republicans changed the filibuster rules again to allow Supreme Court nominees to be confirmed with a simple majority. Yes. You can read about this in Wikipedia has an article on what they call the nuclear option. And they talk about some of the use of the nuclear option to abolish 60-vote threshold for cloture on legislation. Well, anyways, in the article Nuclear Option, which is a parliamentary procedure, you can read about the changes to the filibuster. Hey, thanks to Bad Doge for your support. I really appreciate that. It's very generous of you, Bad Doge. Thanks so much. Thanks also to Shadows6530 for the gift membership. And shout out to Paper City Gamer for your support on Twitch. That's really nice of you. Thanks Douthis for subscribing on Twitch, and also Douthis gave 5 people community subs, gift subs on Twitch. That's so nice of you, Douthis. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And shout out to our moderators who are here as we cover the transition. Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, McBritches over there on Twitch, on Facebook, K. Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Ronald Egnor. Linda Belk and Larry on X, Ruth Kerfasi, Beth Mythical, and our YouTube moderators, thank you. We'll see if Trump makes any other picks today. And take some more comments from you guys, too. NJ Prepper says, America is back. Gitmo Holiday thinks diesel EV hybrids are the future. Thank you, Hawk80, for watching. XCD believes if you don't have the infrastructure to handle the entire population owning electric vehicles, you can't push the change. Thank you, Aldo Ruiz, our new member. Thanks, Aldo. That's real nice of you. Thanks, Aldo, for becoming a member. Oh, I want to show you a little reporting on Matt Gaetz. The Washington Post had something. They talk about what he might do as Attorney General if he's confirmed. Let me show you that. That looks interesting. Hang on. See if I can pull this up here. I can tell you about it. The Washington Post has this article, Why Matt Gaetz is Such a Controversial Pick for Attorney General. They say Gaetz stood out in an increasingly Trumpian Congress for his attacks on the FBI, willingness to engage in conspiracy theories, and intense loyalty to Trump. They say before his resignation, he resigned yesterday from his congressional seat, but before resigning, Gaetz represented one of the most Republican congressional districts in the nation in Florida's Western Panhandle. They say he played a leading role in pushing out Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker, leading to a month-long debacle during which Republicans could not agree on a new one, and Congress essentially shut down. He has been under a House ethics investigation about whether he engaged in sexual misconduct, used drugs, and accepted improper gifts, and obstructed, I believe, an investigation into him. But he denies any wrongdoing, just to be clear. Unclear, by the way, if that report will ever be released. I believe it was supposed to be released in a couple days, but now that he has resigned from the House, it is unclear if that report will be released. What Gaetz would do as the head of the Justice Department. So the Washington Post article has a little section on this. Gaetz treated Wednesday would be Trump, when announcing his pick on Truth Social of Matt Gaetz, said Gaetz will end weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore Americans' badly shattered faith and confidence in the Justice Department. He said Matt will root out the systemic corruption at DOJ and return the department to its true mission of fighting crime and upholding our democracy and Constitution. Project 2025, a blueprint for a second Trump administration written by Trump's allies, proposes moving the Justice Department and all of its law enforcement arms, such as the FBI, directly under presidential control. The plan, which Trump has denounced, which Trump has criticized, from the Conservative Heritage Foundation, calls for a top-to-bottom overhaul of the FBI and suggests the next administration be given access to review investigations and nix any the president doesn't like. This would dramatically weaken the independence of federal law enforcement agencies, something good governance experts say is particularly ominous, as Trump describes top Democrats as the enemy from within. So, how much change will there be at the Justice Department? How much is Trump planning? How much might Matt Gaetz start carrying out if he's confirmed? We don't know. We don't know. Could there be a lot of firings at the Justice Department? What can I tell you? I have no idea. I do not know. The head of governance studies at the Brookings Institution said of the Project 2025 proposals that they would be an all-out assault on the Department of Justice and the FBI and would mean tight White House control of the DOJ and FBI. Are those going to happen? I just don't know, guys. But this is certainly... we'll have to just see what happens. I do not know. Same with the Pentagon. How much changes are going to be at the Pentagon? Chaz says, how does he manage to make every pick more controversial than the last? Well, not everyone has been. I mean, I don't believe Doug Collins, former Congressman Doug Collins for the head of the VA, which he announced today, is as controversial as some of the past ones. But there have been a number of controversial picks. Paul Ham says, Gates has never been charged or punished. They tried to destroy him because he exposed his fellow congressmen for their BS. Politico had an article 4 days ago, and the headline of the article in Politico was, many in government are worried about Trump's return. At DOJ, they're terrified. The subheadline of the Politico article is, Trump blames the Department of Justice for much of his torment over the past 4 years. Lawyers there fear what's next. The Department of Justice has 115,000 employees. You know, it's interesting. In this article from 4 days ago in Politico, it's a section that says Trump's AG pick could set the tone. That's before he chose Matt Gaetz. It's interesting, looking at this article in retrospect from Politico from 4 days ago, the article said one early indicator of how much disruption Trump plans at the Justice Department will be his Attorney General pick. A more radical choice, which Matt Gaetz was, would portend extreme turbulence for the department, veterans of the Justice Department said. Chaz says the tone has certainly been set. Brenton says, let's see how things play out. Trump is defiantly playing a different precedence. Dallas says, I am more excited every day. Jennifer Montoya thinks the majority of population thinks the picks are great. Will there be any other nominations today? We'll give it a little time and see. It is 7 p.m. I haven't seen any reporting tonight about other nominations either. Will Marjorie Taylor Greene get nominated for something? Interesting. I just heard a report about Mark Halperin just posted something about what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. Let me look at this. Okay, the Wall Street Journal has an article that Matt Gaetz's nomination as Attorney General is seen as doomed by some Senate Republicans. And in the article, it says, you know, it's going to be 53 Republicans and 47 Democrats. Assuming all the Democrats vote no on Matt Gaetz, you can only lose 3 senators. If you have 50, it's 50-50, and then the vice president can break that tie. But you can't lose more than 3 senators if they're going to vote no instead of yes. The Wall Street Journal says, so Kevin Cramer, who's a Republican senator, said that Gaetz has a very long, steep hill to get across the finish line. He said he didn't think Gaetz would have the votes to even be approved by the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. Never mind the full Senate. Also, the Wall Street Journal said one source said there are significantly more than 4 Republican senators opposed to Gaetz. And other estimates and the Wall Street Journal is more right-leaning than left-leaning. The Wall Street Journal says other estimates ranged from more than a dozen Republican no votes to more than 30. It won't even be close, another person said. Now, is that true? Are all these Republican senators really going to want to publicly vote against Trump's pick? I don't know. But that's interesting reporting from the Wall Street Journal. Interesting. The Wall Street Journal also says there is talk among some senators of trying to get Trump to pull Gaetz or get Gaetz to withdraw his name. I that's obviously a big number, they say in the article. They say their sources suggest to them that again, I'll just tell you this again from that Wall Street Journal article, which came out today. Where is it here? Where is it? Yeah, it says some estimates that the Wall Street Journal has gotten about how many Republican no votes on Gaetz there can be are more than a dozen to more than 30. I'd actually post that. Give me a moment. I'll take some comments. So the headline of that article is Gates' nomination seen as doomed by some Senate Republicans. Sorry, I'm just posting this. I think it's really interesting. By the way, I have no idea. It's one thing to have for Republican senators to be saying this stuff now. It's another thing for them actually to get up there and vote against a Trump nominee. So I'll believe that the Republicans reject Matt Gaetz or any other Trump nominee when I actually see it. It would be a really big deal. All right, sorry. I was just posting this. Sorry for the delay. Okay, let's see. One of our viewers said, wonder why Gaetz resigned if it's still so uncertain. We talked about that yesterday. Michael MacIsaac. Yeah, so, I mean, one thing we talked about yesterday is Gaetz did resign from his seat, but might it be the case that even if he's not confirmed, he's been told he's going to get some position in the administration anyway? Maybe there's another position in the administration that's not a confirmed position, that's not a Senate confirmed position he could get. That would be one example of a reason why he might resign his seat. I don't think Matt Gaetz thinks there's no chance of him not getting confirmed. So there's some reason he was okay with resigning early. But I was just wondering if maybe he's been told he'll get something else if he doesn't get that. But I don't know. Now, there's a thing where I think a couple days after he resigned, this House ethics investigation into him, the report was supposed to come out, and now it might not come out because he's resigned. Did that have anything to do with it? I have no idea. There's some talk that the ethics report might still be released. So I don't know. I can't, I'm not in his head, so I don't know. Some of our viewers, like Ian Fleming, think that he resigned to keep the report from coming out. Bruce Davenport says, I think he wants to use the opportunity to try and clear his name during confirmation hearings, then run for governor in the near future. Lethal Old Fart thinks it will absolutely be leaked. I don't think the report had anything to do with why he resigned. I'm going to ask as a poll question. Will Gates be confirmed by the Senate? Assuming the Senate does take a vote on him for Attorney General. We'll do a quick poll and see what you guys have to say. Let's see what the viewers say. Will Matt Gaetz be confirmed by the Senate? Over there on YouTube, we have, hang on a second, I'll show you in a second. There's Matt Gaetz. On YouTube, 63% of you think he will be confirmed and 37% say no. Meanwhile, on Twitch, the vote is, on Twitch, it's more no than yes. On Twitch, 53% say no and 51% say no, 49 say yes. It's more split over there on Twitch. Thanks, by the way, to our subscribers over there on Facebook, like Robert Rial II and Eve Richards. Oopsie. This is all messed up now. Hold on a second. Why is... Oh, I see what's going on. There we go. We'll thank more of our subscribers in a second. TJ Adams says he doesn't have to be confirmed. Well, he doesn't have to be confirmed if Trump does a recess appointment, but the Senate basically has to let Trump do the recess appointment. The Senate needs to basically agree to that. Thank you, Jay-Z Gamer. Jay-Z thinks Matt is seen as too extreme by many Republicans. The ethics reports are damning and have to be brought up during vetting, and ousted Kevin McCarthy. That's what Jay-Z Gamer says. Jay-Z Gamer 12. Thank you, Jay-Z Gamer 12. Appreciate that. JM says, I voted no because I think Trump and Gates are just trolling the DOJ. Blue Lotus says Gates won't get confirmed. Waste of time for Trump. All right, thanks for voting. Well, it ended up pretty even on Twitch over there. YouTube, 2/3 of you about said yes. Oh, by the way, thanks to our Facebook subscribers like Eve Richards, Robert Rial II, K. Larry Body, Margaret Riley, Marie Minicello, Lou Green, Lynn Powell, Leanne Ticknor, Diane Allworth. Thanks for subscribing on Facebook. I appreciate that. Also our Twitch subscribers. Shout out to you, people like Wall Street and Shaggy and Spent Primer. And Chi-Town Bear, Dino Nuggies, Mr. Bigley Uncredible. Integrity Farmer Bob, Lazy Dong Service, all of our 66 modal, Mick Britches, thank you. Hang on, I had too much stuff open here. Sorry. Need to close some things. Here's a little thing on Todd Blanche, who Trump named as the #2 justice official today. AP says President-elect Trump has chosen Todd Blanche, an attorney who led the legal team that defended Trump at the hush money criminal trial, to serve as the second highest ranking Justice Department official. He would be under Matt Gaetz if Matt Gaetz is confirmed. A former federal prosecutor, Blanche has been a key figure on Trump's defense team, both in the New York case that ended in conviction in May and the federal cases brought by Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith. If confirmed as Deputy Attorney General by the Senate, Blanche would manage the day-to-day operations of the sprawling Justice Department, which Trump has vowed to radically overhaul. David Gray said this guy is no nonsense. Dr. McRib says another loyalist. The Lucky Minute said always angry. Hey, this is interesting. Look at this from the Washington Post. Go bags, passports, foreign assets, preparing to be a target of Trump's revenge. A retired U.S. Army officer who clashed with senior officials in Trump's first White House looked into acquiring Italian citizenship in the run-up to this month's election, but wasn't eligible, and instead packed a go bag with cash and a list of emergency numbers in case he needs to flee. A member of Trump's first administration who publicly denounced him is applying for foreign citizenship and weighing whether to watch and wait or leave the country before the inauguration. And a former U.S. official who signed a notorious October 2020 letter suggesting that emails purportedly taken from a laptop belonging to Hunter Biden could be part of a Russian disinformation operation is seeking a passport from a European country, uncertain about whether the getaway will prove necessary, but concluding you don't want to have to scramble. All spoke on the condition of anonymity to avoid undermining their own preparations. The planning, they acknowledge, responds to a hypothetical worst case in which a second Trump presidency ushers in a systematic suppression of free speech and criminalization of dissent. Trump's victory alone has set off alarms among some of his most outspoken critics, as well as within parts of the intelligence and national security communities he denigrated as the deep state and accused of subverting his agenda. The anxiety of these people has intensified amid the drumbeat of picks for critical cabinet posts. Trump said Wednesday he would make Matt Gaetz, the Republican firebrand from Florida, his attorney general, and Tulsi Gabbard, the former Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii and fervent critic of the foreign policy establishment, who told world leaders to embrace the spirit of aloha after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 as his director of national intelligence. Unlike the ordinary Americans who joke each election cycle about leaving the country when their preferred candidate loses, this group of anxious retired officers or government officials includes people whom the incoming president and his allies have subjected to withering criticism. Scarcely any of them described any firm plans to leave the country, but they're also not brushing off the threats as they keep track of personnel named to influential government jobs. Following the selection of Gaetz to lead the Justice Department, many are watching whether Kash Patel, a Trump loyalist who appended a deep state list to his 2023 book, Government Gangsters, blah, 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 lands a senior role at a top agency such as the FBI. People on Patel's list in other inventories of Trump antagonists have taken precautions ranging from the dramatic to the mundane. They include determining whether they're eligible for foreign citizenship, examining the possibility of purchasing property abroad, and considering whether to move money into overseas banks. The steps illustrate how seriously some potential targets of Trump's retribution are taking the possibility that he or his allies could use the U.S. legal system against them, or that vigilante actors could take justice into their own hands. I do wonder, will Trump start telling the Justice Department to, investigate and maybe criminally charge people who have been opposed to him, like Jack Smith or something? Mark Zaid, a national security lawyer who's represented government whistleblowers and has counseled clients about the steps they might take now that Trump has been elected, said, more will become clear soon. The incoming administration is promising swift action on day one, Zaid said, so I don't think it'll take long to have a sense of what is planned. There are already lots of people starting to organize, especially lawyers, about seeking to uphold the rule of law come next January. As a candidate, Trump described his domestic opponents as the enemy from within, and he argued that his perceived adversaries should face comeuppance, including both legal prosecution and extrajudicial action. Trump said on a conservative talk show in the final days of the campaign that Jack Smith, the special counsel who has brought two criminal cases against him, should be thrown out of the country. He has called Liz Cheney a radical war hawk who should face, I don't know, he talked about a hypothetical situation where she could have guns in her face. And he suggested that Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who I believe referred to Trump as a fascist in Bob Woodward's book. We read that in a different article. He suggested that Mark Milley should be executed, writing on social media that the general committed acts so egregious that in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. Retribution could include criminal investigations and prosecutions, but also less theatrical penalties. Retired government officials could lose their security clearances, often important to private sector work, or confront burdensome tax audits. So what is going to happen? Again, this article isn't saying anything's going to happen. Look at this here. Since Trump's victory on November 5th, prominent allies of the president-elect have threatened people at odds with the incoming commander-in-chief. Steve Bannon, who briefly served as chief strategist in Trump's first White House, reiterated his call for Mark Milley to face sanctions over a phone call he placed seeking to reassure his Chinese counterpart in the aftermath of the pro-Trump attack at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. On his War Room show this week, Bannon said Trump should act against Milley on the first day of his presidency, recall him to active duty, and make him face a court-martial. Milley believes Trump may act on this recommendation, according to a book by Bob Woodward. Milley told former colleagues of Trump he is a walking, talking advertisement of what he's going to do. Some of Trump's congressional allies have cast doubt on the prospect of wide-ranging retribution. For example, Representative Jim Jordan said, "I don't think any of that's going to happen because we're the party who's against political prosecution." John Brennan, former CIA director, said, Trump will certainly seek retribution against his enemies, but I have no plans to decamp abroad. Anyways, I mean, you might say this and you might say, oh, these concerns are overblown and Trump's Justice Department isn't going to charge Jack Smith with anything or Mark Milley with anything. They're not going to do that. I mean, I can't tell you. I don't know. And as the article said, some people are looking at his picks for some of these cabinet positions like Matt Gaetz and saying, whoa, what is that going to signal for what the new administration might do? Cole K. Meister says, I am a diehard Republican and this is absurd. Do you think it's absurd that the possibility of this happening, that thinking it's possible is absurd, or do you think it's absurd that it is possible? I'm not sure. Alan Hollister says the only way Trump can go after them is if they did something wrong. And look, Trump he did talk about this stuff lots during the campaign. Pelly Smith thinks Trump wants revenge so bad. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. Lynn Huey, thanks Lynn. Lynn says karma is a blank. Nuclear Option says if they're innocent, they wouldn't be running. That's my biggest question right now. I think, what are we going to see right when Trump takes office? What might we see right as he takes office? And will we see, big changes, a lot of firings taking place, people being let go in various departments and various branches of government? I do not know. Fred Flintstone says, relax, please. Trump never went after Hillary. Joe thinks Milley should be charged with treason. Thanks, Joe, for your support. Thanks, Nick Van Sickle, for your support. Johnny Yuma thinks Trump is not out for revenge. He wants justice. All right, I don't know that we're going to get any more Trump nominations today. It's 7:37. Cajun Shrimp says, how soon could Trump fire the head of the FBI? As soon as he's president. He's not president yet. Jen messaged me with something I had seen elsewhere too. Annie Grayer of CNN said Republicans on the House Ethics Committee have canceled their meeting with Democrats that was expected to address the long-awaited report on Matt Gaetz. Another report I saw said that this meeting was they were going to decide whether to release the report. I don't know why they canceled the meeting. Again, we don't know if the House Ethics Committee, the House Ethics report on Matt Gaetz will be released now that he has resigned from the House. We do not know. Is Trump speaking tonight? I haven't heard anything about him speaking tonight. Not Tom Larson said on Polymarket, Matt Gaetz currently has a 28% chance of being confirmed as Attorney General. That's on Polymarket, the betting site. Thanks, not Tom Larson. He is speaking tonight at 8 p.m.? What is he saying? Is he making an announcement? I hadn't heard this. I'm not aware of it. Oh, he's speaking at the America First Policy Institute. The America First Policy Institute. I just saw that. That's what AFP said. He is speaking at a gala at the America First Policy Institute. I don't believe I will have that. I don't believe I will have footage of that, at least so far at this point. C-SPAN says it's at 8:30 Eastern. Thanks, Sumisu. Sumisu, I got your suggestion. Thank you. Well, I think we're getting close to that time, guys. I think we're getting close to that time. Yeah, in terms of the recess appointments, we don't know if the Senate would have to let Trump do recess appointments, which would mean his appointments which would not require Senate confirmation, and we just don't know right now how the Senate's going to come down on that. It's unclear. Thanks, Data, please, for writing in on that. Okay, so, well, we have been covering the latest developments in the Trump transition. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? But I think at this point, we're going to start wrapping up this live stream. If you missed it, we did a bunch of coverage on the RFK pick earlier in the stream. So I really appreciate you guys being here today for our live coverage. If there's big news tonight about something, we'll come on the air and cover it. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news here without an agenda. And I appreciate you all watching. A lot of people making comments in the chat and sending me comments on X. I appreciate you letting me read your comments on the air. And some interesting comments today from our viewers as usual. Thanks, Toby N, for your kind words. And follow me on X. I will post updates when I'm not on the air. I will post updates on my X account, @Lookner on X. You can follow me there for breaking news updates. And a shout out to all of our moderators. Oh, yes, as our viewer said, it looks like the Trump speech will be at Mar-a-Lago, but it's being made at the America First Policy Institute Gala. Huge thanks to our moderators. You guys are awesome. They're the ones keeping things in the chat civil and respectful. So big thanks to our mods. Beth Mythical, Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube. Thanks so much. We couldn't even have chats without our moderators. So thank you. Linda Belk and Larry on X. Over there on Facebook, K. Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Ronald Egnor, thank you. And Paul Anderson, thanks Paul for moderating over there. On Twitch, thanks so much, moderators. Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, thank you. And all of our other moderators too. Thanks to everybody who donated. So nice of you guys. Really appreciate your support. That's super nice of you. That is what allows this channel to exist, is your support. It's a viewer-supported channel. So I really, really do appreciate it. I think I thanked everybody. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But again, thanks so much for supporting the channel and letting it exist. Thank you. And hey, sign up for our notifications. I don't know when big news is going to happen. I can't tell you in advance when we're going to come on the air every time. But sign up for our notifications so you get sent a notification whenever we go live. We have our own notification system. It's free. It works really great. It's really reliable. It's done through Discord. The mods will post a link to sign up. You just have to sign up once, then you get the notifications every time. At the same link, you can actually check out also, we have a chat. We have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. It's on Discord and it's free too. So check that out at the same link. The link to the chat and the notifications is also in the description of this video. And thanks to our Discord mods too. Really appreciate our Discord moderators. Thank you, Discord mods. Quick reminder for those who watch on YouTube, make sure you have the notifications turned on YouTube, because those can be really helpful to find out when we're live. So if you're a YouTube viewer and you subscribe, then what you want to do is make sure, if you're subscribed, that you have the bell checked. You got to click this bell, the notifications bell, and choose all notifications. Make sure you have that turned on YouTube. Thanks to all of our Twitch subscribers like Chips29, Wall Street, and Shaggy. Really appreciate your support. J-Tide, Jax Animals, 66 Modal, Dino Nuggies, Spent Primer, Hectate, Rocky Coast. Thank you. And all of our other subscribers on Facebook. Lynn Powell for subscribing on Twitch. All of our other Twitch subscribers, our Facebook subscribers too. Thanks so much for your support. Eve Richards, Lynn Powell, Leanne Ticknor, Robert Rial II, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Marie Minicello, Diane Allworth, and all of our other subscribers over there. Thank you. Susan Priest Buchner, Thanks for subscribing. And our YouTube members. Thanks to all of our YouTube members. Sumi Sue, Cajun Shrimp, Lucky Minute, Susie Iris, Joe Hart, H. Parsons, Beam Me Up, Dean R., UV Lightning, Sunflower, Jesse James, Wickedest Witch, Veronica W. 100, John Griffith, Barry, Dean R., Todd USA, Lucky Minute, It's Just Me, Jane Jones, J.K. Sinar, Barry, Hobgoblin, Dodger Blue, KIU 420, ShadowNet, Sea Turtle, Chris N., Chris G., Fred Flintstone, Jason L.S., Rose Garvey, all of our members over there, Todd USA, Barry, and others, and all of our other viewers like Peach Lilac, Cody O., and Tia Christie, Artist Caverlin, all of our other viewers. J-Tide, did I thank J-Tide, our subscriber? Thanks for watching. All right, guys, so we'll have more, obviously we'll have more coverage of the transition, and if other big news happens, we will certainly cover it. But for now, I'm going to wrap up this live stream, and we'll see who else Trump nominates. All right, guys, that is it for now. Thank you again to our moderators, and thanks to you for watching, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news updates right here at Agenda Free TV.